More football coming your way now on the Tuesday edition of the Sportsmax Zone. CONCACAF U-20 World Cup qualifying being played across the Confederation. It's into its fifth day Tuesday. The most recent playing day was Monday, providing some movement along the table. Let's take a look at those Monday results now. Martinique 2-1 over Bermuda, and Jamaica defeating Grenada by 2-0. So Jamaica moving to the top of the table with the victory there. They had beaten Martinique over the weekend as well, the young Jamaica Reggae Boys. Now for today's fixtures, Suriname have already beaten Ghana, who have struggled in this tournament. And coming up later on, we have Antigua and Barbuda against the Turks and Caicos Islands. Antigua and Barbuda hosting their group. Dominica tackling St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a bottom-of-the-table clash, which is that group being led by TNT and Canada. Haiti facing Puerto Rico, BVI against Belize, St. Martin taking on Aruba. As we said, TNT facing Canada, St. Kitts and Nevis, they're hosting their group as well. They're tackling the Cayman Islands. Nicaragua facing Anguilla, and Curacao, they are tackling the Barbados team. So we spoke of the Group D setup where TNT and Canada have both won their opening games, and their battle tonight will decide the Group D honours. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica bottom of the table, and we spoke earlier about the wooden spoon match that they'll be having. So the Canadians had beaten Dominica by 8-0. They swept past St. Vincent and the Grenadines 4-0. TNT also beat those opponents, Mariah, but this is a huge top-of-the-table clash here with the Canadians away on TNT turf. But the TNT team, they have shown a lot of quality so far in this tournament.
Yeah, I have personally been impressed with the TNT youngsters, because one of the things I always say is, it's one thing to score a goal in one match and then you don't show up in another match. But what I found very common within the results is that you have the same players stepping up match after match. I found that very, very impressive. And some of the results land. So against St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago got 3 goals against St. Vincent and the Grenadines 2. The goal scorers were Cody Cooper, Larry Noel, and Michael Chavez. Against Dominica, 5-0, which again is an impressive score because they were able to keep a clean sheet. But again, the same goal scorers stepping up to the call. Michael Chavez again, then they had 2 goals from Larry Noel, who would have scored in that match against St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Rio Cardenas and Daryl Garcia. So for me, coach has been getting it right where these youngsters are concerned. And it's that same confidence that I'm expecting to see against the Canadians. Forget about all the stats and everything. You're at home, you're playing at home against a Canadian side. I think, if the Trinidad and Tobago boys, they just come out really confident, just put up a fight and remember what you've been doing against these weaker teams previously, I think they can have a good shot.
Yeah, the TNT head coach Brian Haynes has said he has studied the Canadian games and watched them very, very closely. Yeah. So he is strategizing for them and hoping that he can get a win, which would take them to the CONCACAF U-20 finals. Brent Sancho now joins us. Brent, of course, following the tournament, and I'm pretty certain he'll be at the Hayes Crawford Stadium tonight watching this fixture. Brent, let me start here. What's it with you Canadians, the Trinidadians and the Canadians? Because you already have a Copa America playing match to come later this month, the senior boys, and now the juniors are at it as well.
It seems like fate has us in this year, of course, seeing Canada many occasions and many times. The good thing is that we don't have to go up in the bitter cold in Canada. Albeit though, Lance, I have a good friend in Canada, and he said to me he was wearing a T-shirt today. Would you believe that?
Wow. Yeah, that's not normal for Canada in February, is it?
Not at all, not at all. But this game tonight, of course, in the first phase of the Canada Derby, of course, the second one being in March for the all-important spot in the Copa America. This one, of course, is with the under-20s. It's a difficult task for the Trinidadians. Of course, Coach Haynes said that he will go an all-out attack. The plan is to outrun Canada, outthink Canada, and, of course, outscore Canada and they are playing a very offensive side, according to Coach Haynes. It will be an uphill task because Canada has basically breezed through this competition so far. A team that has a lot of pedigree in it, as you would expect, with players plying their trade in the likes of AC, Inter Milan, and of course Sheffield United. So it is a task, and of course Trinidad and Tobago has to win. A draw for Canada is enough to get them through because they have a superior goal difference. But as Mariah rightfully said, you're playing at home, and if there is ever a better opportunity for Trinidad and Tobago to win, is playing a match against Canada at home.
Yeah, there's Nathan Kwashi, who didn't get into the current setup with Brian Haynes as the coach. I know they had mentioned he had an injury issue in the past month or so, but I heard you on commentary over the weekend suggesting that you still think, in spite of that, his midfield quality could have benefited this team.
Yeah, certainly so. He's easily the best all-round midfielder that we have in Trinidad and Tobago at the U20 level. A kid that not only can play an 8 or 6, he also now recently over the SSFL and now, of course, at we call big man level or pro football level, he's been scoring goals, and it's something that they need, a dynamic midfielder that could, of course, provide the kind of impetus that Trinidad and Tobago need. He has the physicality and, of course, the engine room to play. I was surprised to see him playing over the weekend against Central FC for his club Sando, which suggests to me he's fit and ready. He has been omitted. Lance, there's been several omissions from this team that have some of the local fans and of course, pundits scratching their heads. But Brian Haynes has been quoted as saying that, of course, he found this team and it was selected by his assistant coach and the technical director. So he is still getting acclimatized with the boys. I did say in the last time that we had a conversation that this is a team that had 32 players come last November are still in camp. So clearly Coach Haynes not necessarily finding his best team, because he would have had probably about 2 months since November to wilt it down to the squad that they have now, albeit, of course, he's trying to find his best selection tonight to come up against a Canada team that, as I said, have all the weapons to win a football game.
Yeah, and you know, Brent, despite what you've just said, just judging from the previous results, you know, many of the fans would trust the process because we've got favorable results. Some of the players that have really stood out, and I was chatting about it with Lance before you joined us, you know, would have been the consistent goal scorers. And you've been somebody who's been covering the football for quite some time. So maybe you can share with us a bit about these players. Michael Chavez, which club he played with in Trinidad and Tobago before?
He plays for Queen's Park. He's a schoolboy that played for Fatima, of course, winning the SSFL the previous season. A young man that has a top truckloads of energy and has a nose for goal. Lindell Sween is a standout pick from an attacking perspective, a creative player that is certainly one of those that you can consider a top-tier player. And, of course, Larry Noel up front, a player that is well-known in the SSFL ranks and have gone away to play collegiate football. But, Mariah, I think the problem for Trinidad and Tobago is not necessarily scoring goals, but keeping goals out of their net. Yeah. They have been a bit shaky defensively, or look shaky defensively. They have looked very shaky in the middle of the park. And I think that is really the concern. And when you look at their collective so far, the game against St. Vincent and, of course, the follow-up game against Dominica, on the occasion when they have been tested, they do look like they can bend and break. And the Canadians will certainly bring that sort of test to Trinidad and Tobago tonight.
Yeah, what type of football, Brent, do you expect to see from both teams as they go up against each other?
That's a good question. You know, if you listen to Coach Haynes, you would think that they're going to go on all-out attack. But a wise man would think that they can't afford to do that because because of the defensive frailties that I just mentioned, they may be a bit, of course, cautious of that. Again, they need to win this football game. So do they now play and manage the game accordingly? I don't think necessarily that the Canadians will sit back. I do think that they will be very compact and of course, very understanding of what they need to get out of this football game. It's a team, the Canadians, that is, that have several kids within that squad that played in the World Cup in Peru at the under-17 level. And as I mentioned, kids that played quite a high level. So game management and game understanding is certainly filtered through that Canadian lineup. So it's going to be a big test of the Trinidad and Tobago under-20 boys. I think if they played on the front foot, it will bring a very interesting and entertaining football game. but then it may leave them, of course, susceptible for transition plays and possibly counter-attack goals.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about my second home, Jamaica. They've also been doing pretty well at the top of their group, 2 from 2. Brent, talk about the quality you've seen from this under-20 Jamaican team.
They've been very organized, they've been very cohesive and very professional performances. Of course, they're going on to 10 men in both games against Martinique and against Grenada. Certainly shows, of course, Jamaica pedigree. It's a team with of course, abundance of richness in terms of talent, in terms of ability within. Coach Wall has done a good job in structuring them in the right way. And they really haven't looked bothered or perturbed so far. All due respect to both, of course, Bermuda and Grenada. They've looked a better team. They come up against Bermuda last, but against Martinique and Grenada, they've looked a better team. And I expect the same against Bermuda, that they would go through comfortably in that one. I think, Mariah, the question for Jamaica, with the abundance of talent that they don't have in the squad currently, players that play in the UK, are they going to mix things up? Are they going to try to change things when they go to the final round? I think that's the biggest question. And that's me suggesting that their job at the group stages has been a done and dusted one.
Yeah, just before you go, though, Brent, you don't want to underestimate opponents, and the Bermudans, even though they lost to Martinique by 2-1, they had beaten Grenada 2-1, so they scored in both their games, and I think they have quality. It would be an error for the Jamaica coaching staff to be complacent against Bermuda, I think.
Yeah, they can't be. And, give Coach Wall credit. He's made I think, at least 4 or 5 changes in the last fixture against Grenada. He understands the importance of keeping things fresh. And more importantly, they've been very concentrated. Of course, the red card was unfortunate for them. But all in all, what they've done so far, there's nothing in their performances that suggests that they would come into this one, of course, underestimating the Bermudans. It's been a professional, efficient performance so far from the Jamaicans. But I just think, Lance, the quality that they possess, it'll be very, very difficult for Bermuda to get a result against Jamaica and seeing Jamaicans coming out and not being able to qualify out of the group. I just think they possess too many different weapons, and they should get through smoothly.
Yeah, and just before we wrap through, Brent, from a CARICOM perspective, TNT and Jamaica undefeated, Antigua and Barbuda top of their group at the moment as well, and the Haitians have been top of their group. How do you reckon the Caribbean Football Union teams have done overall so far in these CONCACAF playoffs?
But before I answer that question, Lance, let me just express my disappointment in the fact that these games are very difficult to see throughout the Caribbean, and that's something that needs to be fixed, because I do believe that these youngsters deserve to be on the right medium and being seen throughout the region. I do think, yes, the results are good, but we have to take things into context. Of course, the likes of USA and Mexico, Costa Rica, etc., still awaits in the next round. And that really has always been the test for the Caribbean countries when it comes to that phase of it. Yes, it's good to get results against some of the menus in CONCACAF and in the CFU, but can they emulate the same sort of performances and results when they come up against the big guns? I think that is really the litmus test for the CFU region.
Yeah, and of course, as we had discussed prior to the start of the playoffs, Brent, very rare that a Caribbean team qualifies for the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. And the task again here appears mountainous.
Yeah, it does appear mountainous. I do fancy the Jamaicans' chances, and of course the Haitians as well. It will be difficult for Jamaica because, as I said, what do you do? Do you now bring in some of the players that you have in Europe that you can utilize? Will that, of course, offset some of the gelling that would have taken place during the tournament? For the Haitians, a good bunch of players, good talented players. But can they compete against Costa Rica and USA and Mexico? I think it's such a difficult ask. And we go back to what I said at the beginning of this, of course, tournament. A lot of these teams just haven't played enough games to be at the standard of the Costa Ricas and the USAs and of course, the Mexico. And that has always been the Achilles heel when it comes to the CFU region. We don't have the Under-20 CFU championship or Caribbean championship for these teams to get these sort of games. They now go straight into this phase of things and is obviously have a challenge in playing against some of these teams.
Yeah, okay, Brent. Well, we leave it there. All the best from the Sportsmax Zone to the TNT Young Soca Warriors as they tackle the Canadians tonight. You can send them our greetings from here in Kingston, Jamaica, and we wish them all the best from a CARICOM perspective. Talk to you again soon, Brent.
I certainly will. I'll have my salted nuts and, of course, my red solo.
Red solo alone, Brent?
Unsalted nuts. Unsalted nuts.
That doesn't sound like a Brent
It seems
Sancho.
that Mariah knows you well, Brent. We leave it there. Back with more on the Sportsmax Zone after this.